Hey, hello, and welcome to the Whole Loaf. My name is Paul Bertzloff. I am here with Deb Murray, a professional food stylist, author of 17 cookbooks. And once again, this is the Whole Loaf. It is a holistic approach to healthy living and building strong relationships. And so we're going to cook another good dish this evening, right?
Exactly.
What are we cooking tonight?
All right, so tonight we're going to twist it up a little bit, Paul. We've been really talking healthy and doing some things with vegetables, but tonight I wanted to do one of my most popular recipes.
Kraft macaroni and cheese.
This is, I think, if there were people like on Mars, this would be the way to communicate. Everybody loves mac and cheese, right?
It's one of the favorite dishes of kids and actually adults. I lived off of Kraft macaroni and cheese for like 2 years when I lived out in California.
Exactly.
2 years. That and peas and rice.
And didn't it make you feel good though?
It did.
It's
good stuff, yeah.
So it was one pot, it was easy, it was economical. What we're going to do is we're going to take grown-up macaroni cheese and we're going to make it easy like the box macaroni and cheese, only we're taking out all the additives, all the preservatives. We're going to make it more delicious, but it is going to provide you with the same thing that box did. That comfort, that feeling like when you're a little kid, like a bowl of hug.
So we don't need this, is that what you're
saying?
saying?
We're not going to need that whatsoever.
Okay, it's gone.
But we are totally changing the way we're going to cook macaroni and cheese.
Okay.
Like I'm going to do things that you're going to look at me and you're going to go, what is up with her?
Okay.
All right, because first of all,
I'm ready to learn here.
Paul, we are going to not cook our pasta in water and then rinse it and put it through a strainer.
Okay.
Tonight, we are going to take chicken stock, and we're using box stock tonight, but you know I love to make homemade chicken stock. We're going to add some milk to it. We're going to bring that to a boil in one pot. We're going to add in the noodles and cook it in the milk and the chicken stock with black pepper in there. And then after 8 minutes of it simmering, we're going to stir in our cheese. And I've got magic cheese in here, so it'll never coagulate, it'll never separate, it'll never curd. And then, if you really want to put a little twist on it, we can pop it out of the grill and make it crunchy.
Magic cheese.
Magic cheese.
So just regular chicken broth.
Well, at home, you know, I make chicken stock from scratch. That's like my thing. Like if anyone said, oh, something about Deborah Murray, they would say Deborah Murray loves to make soup.
Okay. Yeah, you've got a killer story about soup, don't you?
Exactly.
Okay, go ahead and share that story with us all.
It was kind of funny. About 20 years ago when I was working at the Home Shopping Channel, I was their in-house food stylist. So I would prepare the food for the hosts or the celebrities, and they would walk on set and do the cooking demonstrations.
You get all the credit for it.
Well, I mean, a lot of it, like Suzanne Summers, she was doing, back then she had all of these TV shows and movies, and she was so busy, but she'd come up with this book from the New York Times bestseller list, a diet book. Well, this one particular visit, she came it was the day of or day after her mom died. And I'm in the prep kitchen, and literally, Paul, I am crying. Like, I'm like, who could work after losing their mom? And she always tells stories about her mom. My hair's standing on end. And I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. So I went and just started to make soup. I just mindlessly made soup. I brought it into the green room to her and her husband, Alan. She was overwhelmed by it. And a month later, I started working for her permanently, and I did for many, many years. She's one of my favorite people on the planet. But it all really began with a soup.
With a bowl of soup. Yeah, so I mean, this is like truly comfort food.
It is comfort food.
Yeah, good comfort food.
And go ahead. I'm going to raise the temperature.
All right, very good. So how much chicken broth did you put in there?
All right, so there's a cup and a half of chicken stock.
Okay.
1 cup of milk. And we're going to add in a half of a box. That's 8 ounces of the macaroni, the elbow macaroni. And I'm going to simmer this for 6 to 8 minutes, depending on the brand. I found with Barilla, I like to go about 8 minutes. It'll still be al dente. We're going to add in the cheese, and I'll tell you about the magic cheese later. But I want you to work on why our viewers should watch, not just for our recipes, but for their
I loved your story about, the compassion you had basically for Suzanne Summers. And, we're making a comfort food here. And I knew this story. I knew the story about Deb and Suzanne at that one point in time. And what just really jumped out at me is that word compassion, right? I mean, compassion, if you take a look at it in the Greek, if you went to the root word, compassion means this the Greek word is splagnizomai. All right, and remember that one, right? Splagnizomai, okay? It's this inward aching that takes place. It's this inward movement that just, it pushes you to move, it compels you to move, it drives you to do something. I've heard it said before, to say that you care and not act is to not care at all.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and so compassion, like what you had with Suzanne, I mean, compassion moves you to act. It moves you to do something. It's interesting because when you look all throughout the Bible, every time that word splagnizomai is used, like Jesus had splagnizomai, or Jesus had compassion on someone, he acted. He had compassion on a large group of people.
Right.
And he healed the ill, and he fed them.
Exactly.
He had compassion on a blind man, and he healed him. Every time Jesus had splagnizomai, or compassion, it compelled him to act. So that compassion is like, it drives us to embrace others, right? It drives us to help others with no judgment. So there's no judgment involved at all. And when you're compassionate towards somebody, there's all kinds of great emotional and mental and psychological, even physical benefits that take place.
Right.
Because when you're compassionate to someone, right, you're meeting a need. Okay, you're giving them the needed affection and the needed support that person desires or needs at that point in time. You enhance this sense of connectedness. When you show compassion, something like you did with Suzanne, you obviously became connected with her, right?
But that wasn't my intention. It was the stress I was feeling of, I didn't even know how I could even speak to this woman. I just felt so much sadness for her. And at the end of the day, I think that soup helped comfort her soul too. So it served both, and in the end result, I benefited from it. But that was never my intention. It was just good came from it. It's just from the good.
The ministry of being present is what that is. You just, out of compassion, you acted.
Exactly.
You didn't have to say a word. You just simply acted, and all of a sudden there was this sense of connectedness, right? And so when you show compassion to people, you're showing this feeling of being accepted.
I love what you were saying about that it's a verb to be compassionate. Like, how many times can you say, I feel so bad for you, but if you don't do anything about it, you're not really compassionate. Even if it's just to listen. I know in my mom's case sometimes, really, she doesn't want me to fix her situation. She just wants me to sit there so she can, vent that. But that is an action. I can easily say, I'm so sorry, and walk out. But to actually just be there for somebody, that was huge when you told me that. I never even thought about that.
The Bible verse that jumps to mind is faith without works is dead, right?
Exactly.
So to say it and to not do it, it's two different worlds right there. So anyway, showing compassion to somebody is showing them that they're valued. And when you're compassionate to someone, it helps relieve their stress.
It does.
And I would venture to say Suzanne Summers at that point in time would have been, I would have been extremely stressed. And
exactly.
So you just showing that compassion just helps relieve that stress.
And again, to me, love goes through the stomach, and I say this a lot, but I know when I was a child, my grandmother put so much love into everything she made that I became a cook just to fill that void of how much I missed her, how much I loved that smell. And I want people to cook to have that with their children. You could be 80 years old. How about for yourself? How about for that smell coming through the home? It feels different, and it's not that hard. I think that when you learn a few steps, you can be making soup for celebrities too.
Your grandmother put love into it. My grandmother put butter into it. That's what I did.
Well, I know if I work for somebody else.
This is looking delicious here. This is great. So, the other thing too is when you show compassion to somebody, it gives you a higher satisfaction in life. You're happier, you're more socially connected, you're more outgoing. And for couples, all right, if you show compassion to someone else in a relationship, it actually helps you resolve conflict.
Oh, for sure.
It helps you reaffirm commitment, and commitment is powerful because knowing that the other person is committed to you and you're committed to the other person, when times get hard, and they do get hard at times, don't they? I've been married for 27 years. There's times where I absolutely love my wife. She can do no wrong, and there's times that she just drives me crazy. It's like, I don't do that to her. Don't get me wrong.
That's
a one-way street. That's a one-way street. But even showing compassion shows that commitment and reaffirms commitment to someone.
And I find out even with my daughter, when we were locked in during we were always like the best friends, and I was starting to drive her nuts. But again, having compassion on the fact that here we are in this situation, instead of being argumentative with one another, we both kind of looked at each other like, I get it. You're not with 30 million people like you usually are. So it's in all relationships. But I hadn't even thought so much wisdom I get from Pastor. Every time I go to church, I know this sounds silly, but I feel like when I walk out, I'm a better person. And I think that if we can make that our goal to be a little better every day, you know, maybe it's not to be president of the United States, maybe it's not to be famous, but to just be better than the day before.
Yeah.
I love that, what you do for us.
To live love, to just simply be compassionate, to show compassion to people around us. You know, so anyway, I mean, it's powerful. Compassion is extremely, extremely powerful.
All right, so speaking of powerful, let's talk recipe for a second. Okay, so we're probably 6-7 minutes into it. You can see almost all of the liquid has evaporated. Our noodles are what we call al dente. If you cook them till they're mushy and we broil them, then what'll happen is it'll turn to
more mush.
mush.
So I just learned something new. I call them Dante.
Dante.
Al dente.
Dante. But, so we're at that point right now. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna lower our temperature, or actually we can even turn it off, and we're gonna stir in our cheese. Now we talk about the magic cheese. If you've ever made a cheese sauce, you probably recognize the fact that occasionally it'll break. Like all of a sudden you have like this lake of butter on the top and little curds down below. A lot of times that comes from the liquid being too hot. But the other thing is cheese just wants to become curds and whey. Like that's what it's all about. So how to eliminate that from happening, as chefs with food, we have what we call food science. We normally add citrus salts, and you can buy those on Amazon, and it will take any kind of cheese and keep it from ever coagulating. It'll always stay that beautiful queso sauce that you get when you go to the Mexican restaurant.
That's right.
Well, what's going to happen here? I didn't go out and buy the citrus salts. I just went to the deli and I bought their American cheese. This is actually 4 ounces of Boar's Head American cheese, and I shredded it. It has the citrus salts in it, so it'll prevent any of the other cheeses from breaking. Then I added in some cheddar, a little bit of Swiss, a little bit of Parmesan. Look at how creamy and pretty that is. All right, all of the macaroni, I didn't have to strain it. It's got flavor from the chicken stock. It's got flavor from the milk building in, flavor from the peppercorns. And now, Pastor, what we're going to do is we're going to slide it into this casserole dish. And this recipe is the exact amount to do an 8x8 baking dish. If we were doing a potluck at the church, it's good to know. You could have broiled it right in any pot that you cooked it in if it's oven safe. But we're doing double duty tonight. We're preparing for a potluck, or taking it with Go to Compassion. Like when my husband was ill, remember everyone from church would show up with a casserole. Maybe someone's out of work, you could show up with a casserole. This is easy, you can do this. Now I need a little help from you.
Okay.
I want you to take the Parmesan cheese, and we're gonna sprinkle you're gonna grate that over the casserole. So.
See, we just normally get the stuff in the Kraft.
And that's good too, don't get me wrong.
So when we're done grating
but
this?
That's a much better flavor. One of the things between adults and kids and about being a gourmet chef and a non-gourmet chef is it's about ingredients. You know, it's not so hard to do things, but it's better to buy a little better cheese and look at the end result. It's what you invest into it, like your marriage, like your relationship, like your compassion. You've done perfect. I'm gonna sprinkle a little bit of breadcrumbs on here. And again, you don't have to. We could have just done well with just using the Parmesan. We're gonna put little pieces of butter on it.
There's that butter I was talking about.
There you go.
There you go.
This is where we make it really good. And then we're gonna pop this in the oven and wait till you see what we've got.
So we're gonna pop it in the oven for how long?
We're gonna do 20 minutes, and I did forget my oven.
Okay, I got it.
You have it? Are you
I
sure?
got it.
Oh, you're amazing.
All right.
Fantastic.
Ooh, this looks delicious right here.
There you go.
Phenomenal,
All right,
phenomenal.
so let's give it the taste test. All right, so remember we were talking about we want the creaminess like from the box macaroni and cheese, which this recipe will give you. We're getting that gratin on the top, the
what?
the baked cheese on the top. You know, like a gratin.
Okay, gratin.
Gratin. So let's see what you think of the gratin on the creamy mac and cheese.
Once again, excellent. Excellent, excellent. Beats Kraft macaroni and cheese any day of the week here.
And you saw how easy it was. We did it right in front of you. One pot, no colander. I used to do this in a rice cooker with that really famous Austrian chef that used to work for me. Another cockamini restaurant recipe. Because I dump it in the rice cooker, push it,
just press a button and it'd be done.
And then he started taking the little rice cooker into his restaurants and tell the guys, you need to make it taste like this.
Yeah.
And it's all about the foundation, the
It's all
chicken
about
stock,
the
the cream, so it might be easy, but don't discount it. We'll put the recipe up so you can try it for yourself
just
at home.
a great comfort food. I just want to challenge you once again. Look for ways that you can be compassionate. Look for ways that you can show compassion to a spouse. Look for ways that you can show compassion to family members, even to the person on the street. There's so many things, so many benefits of being compassionate. When it comes to a relationship, one of the big benefits of being compassionate is what's called, the clinical term is called positive sentiment override. And basically what that is when you're compassionate to someone, it just kind of creates all of these positive feelings.
Right.
Okay, and so then when something negative does happen, it could be like a needless offense.
Right.
But when something negative does happen, you still view the other positively.
Right.
Right, and so that positive sentiment override kind of acts like a fortress. Okay, it protects the relationship. It makes the relationship stronger. So it's one of those protective factors. And so there is a lot of benefits to being compassionate. Being compassionate and showing compassion, it is directly correlated to trust, to building trust.
I love it.
It's directly correlated to closeness among people and relationship. It's directly correlated to social support and building each other up. And it decreases stress. That's a biggie, because I don't know about you, but we're all stressed out nowadays, aren't we? There seems to be so much going on in our world that it's a great way to relieve stress. Be kind and compassionate to one another is what Jesus tells us. Be kind and
What you
compassionate.
said earlier too, and not judge is compassionate.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I hadn't even thought about
No
that.
judgment zone, right?
Yeah.
We feel it like inward. It compels us,
Yeah.
drives us to move. And so we basically live love.
I love that.
And just as you experienced with Suzanne, when you're compassionate, when you show compassion, it increases friendship. It increases friendship. Just a quick little side note. When it comes to husband-wife to family relationships, friendship, by a determining factor of 70%, is the number one factor for healthy, strong relationships. And one of the ways that you can build friendship is by showing compassion to one another, to acting positively to one another. Yeah, and so 70% is the determining factor. And just so real quick, some ways that you can help build that friendship, ways that you can show compassion, is by building love maps. A love map is just simply knowing the other person's world, asking questions like, what are your dreams? Where would you like to go? What would you like to accomplish? So knowing the other person's world, and then showing fondness and admiration. Okay, and once again, when you show compassion, right, it builds up that positivity, it builds up that friendship. You're going to want to display fondness. You're going to want to display admiration. And not just show it, but to speak it as well. To speak those words to build someone up. And then finally, it's the turn toward bids. Now, that's kind of one of those psychological terms, the turn toward bids, all right? That means like when your spouse or loved one vies for your attention. It could be as simply, I could be here making my macaroni and cheese, and my wife says, oh, look at the beautiful rainbow outside.
Right.
All right, so if I turn toward her, and I look at the beautiful rainbow outside, that is a positive turn toward bid, right? And that helps build up relationships. If I stay focused on my macaroni and cheese and I completely and totally ignore her,
right?
Okay, that's a negative turn toward bid.
For sure.
And that's powerful.
That's a good way to
so I want to challenge you, be aware of that, because that is powerful. A couple of quick statistics there is, very seldomly, actually 0% of the time, will they rebid. Right now, my wife, I got a strong wife. So she'd walk over to me, she'd turn my face and say, I should look at the rainbow out there. And so I would end up looking at the rainbow. But oftentimes they do not rebid.
Right.
And for healthy marriages, for strong marriages, when there's a turn toward bid, they respond 88% of the time.
That makes sense.
Okay, so it's like, it's powerful.
That is huge. And I know my daughter went to you before she got married, and she was learning all of these different things, and I perceive it in their marriage, how well they work back and forth with one another. It's wisdom. It's knowledge is power. This is really powerful.
So compassion. It is a great way not only to live love and to help somebody else. It's a great way to help you. Builds friendships, strengthens relationships. And you know what? As I said, you have a higher satisfaction in life total. You're happier. You're more social.
And you might get a better job.
Yeah. And get some good
And certainly
food.
get
Some
some
good
supper out
food
of it.
as well. All right. Hey, thanks for joining us this evening. You have a great day. God bless.
God bless.
And live love.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.